they easily accept the thing and then they implement it. Then we need the air quality levels, as I told you, what is the existing level and the new data. There should be there are problems in our country that we do have some facilities and we do have some projects. But as I told you, it's a piecemeal. Like I will say, Peshawar, EPA, they do have good instrument, US EPA recommended from the JICA, but they are not in working for the last 3 years. Why? Because they don't have the cost for maintenance. So this should be also considered, that if we are providing them technology, so this technology should be operable. So in future, if there is a maintenance required, either the department themselves have the funds to implement it. If not, they have to arrange it. Then the emission inventory, we don't have the baseline data for that. And also the identification of the health impacts. As I told you, that there are many studies which has been done under different projects and under different institutions, that they have done these studies, but that is only for the purpose of either they are getting the degree or completing a project. There is no continuous project which we can provide you a continuous data, a baseline data, and also its continuous impacts. And then prepare the city baseline assessment report. We tried for Peshawar, but we could not get the complete data. That is why we could not establish this, because this was the part of the plan, that we should establish the baseline data and then after that we will develop a plan, but we couldn't get the data. That is why now we are going again towards that activity. The next step is the target setting, selecting control measures, planning for operationalization. This will take about 10 to 16 months expected. So first step out of this is set interim air quality and emission reduction targets in the sea. First, as we have mentioned in the last slide, that we have to develop a baseline. Once the baseline is developed and we know what is the range of the particulate matters 2.5, particulate matter 10, and other emissions. So on the basis of that, then we improve it, how to reduce it. Like say, the main issue in our country is the particulate matter. The contributors are, number one, the transport. Number two, open burning. Number three, industries. There are other also, but main are these three. So we have to see, for them, there will be different technology. If we have to control the emission from transport, so different models in our country are still operating. From the last 3 decades, we are having the transport of in our country which is operating. So different technology will be required to control the emissions. Similarly, the brick kilns. So some different type of kilns we are having in our country. So some projects are there. They have implemented there and they have introduced new technology. But their technology is so costly that the owners of the brick kiln, they can't afford it. Then is the identify pollution control measures. For the plan, for the action plan, we have to establish what are the pollution control measures. But it will be different. For transport, pollution control measures will be different. For industry, it will be different. How to control the open burning. So we have to consider these things. After that, we can be successful in implementing the clean air action plan for Peshawar and for Sialkot. Then formulate a monitoring and evaluation system using the baseline data. So the baseline data, this is very important. Who will do it? Who will calculate? And who will monitor? Different agencies, they are working on it. Like say sometimes students, they are working. So who will collect the data from the students? Some projects are going on. So who will collect the data? Which department will be responsible to collect the data and develop a baseline? Until we don't have the baseline, our action plan will not be implementable. Develop a communication plan that will detail public awareness, raising campaign and stakeholders. We were discussing our Secretary, Punjab Environment Department, he is here, and we were discussing in the morning that awareness raising and capacity building, you know, it is very difficult to convey what you want to convey to the communities, because mostly they don't know English. Mostly they don't know even the national language, Urdu. They are familiar with the local languages. And you ask them for one day, they come there and just you present in English. And just if you ask, is there any question? No one talk, because they have not understood your presentation. So the capacity building should be on the sector level. Like say, for the government officers, it should be a different type. For the manufacturers, for the pollution creators, there should be a different sector. And for the consumers, for the layman, there should be a different type of capacity building. Then it will be working. So communication plan will detail public awareness raisings, as I have discussed it. And I think with all this, I will finish my presentation. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any question, yes, you are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ershad. So, any questions?
Please.
Air pollution standards.
Standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Just show me. Yeah. And please others ask questions. I wanted to.
Next.
Okay.
Next one. That has the standards. This don't have. Yeah, this one. This one has the some. Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah, this is micrograms per cubic meter.
Why so precise?
These are, you see, actually we are having the standards 150 for particulate matter 10, that is in the ppm, and 50 for the particulate matter 2.5. That is converted to microgram per cubic meter. So that is why this is, yeah. Yeah, that is actually the actual calculation. You see, this is the actual calculation from 150. If you make it 70, that will become 152.
Okay. Anyway, it's a conversion, I think, just to make it
just I show you this comparison, and that is why I discussed with you that we are still in developing the sector-specific standards.
Okay, any further questions at this stage? Karma?
May I have a comment?
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just again this is surprise to hear that Peshawar, I think it's in subtropical, you have cold weather in winter as well. And again, the transport sector become the #1. This is in terms of, general air pollution, like particulate matters, NOx, etc. they have some correlation with CO2 emission, right? Because this is not direct, not entirely, but some correlation. But so if you look at the country's GHG CO2 inventory, that is every country have to do it from time to time, according to the UNFCCC. In developing countries, including Pakistan, and their major contributor, usually it is energy production and energy use, for example, or use for heating, for cooking, for etc. And the transport usually is less than 10%. But let's say in terms of air pollution, transport is not exactly in proportion, but slight correlated to CO2 emission. So maybe let's say higher than CO2 emission, say 20% or even 30%. I'm not sure whether transport become a number one. I mean, in the case of Ho Chi Minh City, they explain they don't have power plants operating in the city. And so we can look into it, but I'm not sure in Peshawar. And could you, so that's, I'm still like puzzled by the findings. Thank you.
Is a very useful question. The first thing is that Peshawar is not so cold as it is considered. It is normally the temperature as in Lahore, same as in Peshawar. The weather is also almost similar. We have some cold areas in KPK, but Peshawar is not included into that. This is the one answer. The other thing is the correlation between the transport and the emission and the other sectors. I don't think that there has been done any study, or maybe if some study has been done, but I don't have any knowledge about that. Okay.
I think just to add to that, so I think maybe there's some confusion. We have not done the what we call the source apportionment for Peshawar or Sialkot because of the challenges that Dr. Irshad alluded to earlier about getting the data. So we actually don't have any assessment of the contribution to air pollution of different sources. We just have some of existing studies that have been done, and we were presenting some of the monitoring data, which obviously isn't sector specific as such. I think the only thing to add to your question, which I know we've been exchanging on the Zoom as well, is that we're focused here at a city level where obviously transport as a proportion is much greater relative to some other sources where you often may have your energy sources, your power plants outside of the city. So I think there's a slightly different mix to say the national perspective and the greenhouse gas inventories that you're referring to. But it is different in every city. In some cities, we have the energy infrastructure right in the middle of the city just for historic reasons. So it's quite different city by city. But I think that explains why generally we're finding transport to be a much greater source in many of the cities. That's where the people are, that's in the middle of the city, and the exposure is much greater. So hence why there's quite a focus on transport more generally because of the impacts it can have. Sorry, Karma, I think you had a question anyway to come in.
Yeah, I tried to be quick. I think we're running behind time, no? So this is actually not a question for Dr. Irshad.
Okay.
It's for our two officials here. We heard from Dr. Irshad's presentation on the challenges we faced on, how we couldn't finalize basically the ingredients for the clean air action plans. And one of the major reasons is because of this very quick turnover of government officials. And of course, as ADB, we are not going to sit and wait and do nothing. We will already go ahead and try to identify investment projects that will, contribute to air pollution reduction. But having said that, I think it's still good to have a clean air action plan as like an overarching framework document so that you can look at the problem holistically. So I think there is still, a lot of value in having that in all other cities and, many national level plans they have. So from your perspective, how do you think would be the best way forward, to have this city level or provincial level and this challenge with the rapid turnover? So how do you think would be the the best way? And what could ADB do to, facilitate the creation without the challenge that we faced under this TA? Yes.
Very well. As we talked on the lunch also with Karma, uh, we have quite a few amount of data regarding these cities also, but more thing that I was stressing towards was some policy level actionable intervention that should be in terms of some investment in a specific sector. To me, the major cities in Pakistan, we face basic challenges of transport sector. That is not only vehicular emission, but the fugitive test associated with this traffic movement within major cities. Second major aspect, apart from this vehicular emission, and this was um in terms of two or two two or more probably 2.5 months of stubble burning that we have mostly in the central part of Punjab that caters for about more than around 60 million population. Our three or four divisions accounting for about 14 cities or 14 districts, that we have a major issue. That issue is not only specific to Punjab, our part of the border, but it is also a cross-border phenomena uh, on the other side of the international border. We need to invest in these two sectors in terms of some economic investment. If we only depend upon the private sector to come up or try to motivate the end users to go for some electric vehicles, electric two-wheelers or three-wheelers, I think this would end us nowhere. Unless a market is created to the extent that these two-wheelers or three-wheelers initially, because as if I give you a very small data, we have a provincial capital by the name of Lahore. Lahore has around 16 million two-wheelers. 16 million is a very big figure, a huge figure. And 16 million two-wheelers, probably many 100,000 three-wheelers, if only they can be converted into electric. Because it was a long discussion that I had with you on the lunch. I would not like to dwell on that phenomena of public transport or mass transport. How is it feasible for Lahore or major cities in Pakistan? But yes, these two-wheelers and three-wheelers over the years have become a menace, not only in terms of air pollution, but also in terms of roadside accidents because of overloading, because of less adherence to traffic rules. So we firstly we need to make an intervention to the extent that the cost of this two-wheeler, three-wheeler, the initial capital cost as well as the recurring cost is not so much that it is not attractive for the end user. Only motivation and coming up with some rules or regulations or even laws probably would not help. Similar is the case with the stubble burning issue. Until unless we provide a cheaper, cost effective, efficient mechanism for the farmer to get rid of that stubble, because there is small window between two crops. He has to sow the wheat crop also. We do not come with a very cost effective mechanism. We cannot motivate a farmer of 2, 3 or 4 acres. This is true for Bangladesh, India, this region, to move towards that. So I was talking in terms of some investment in this sector, maybe 20, 80% by the government or any agency, and 20% by the farmer. Then we can expect that this might help us to get rid of this smog menace that we have in these months in this part of South Asia, and air pollution all over the year. A third issue that we did not discuss, but I would like to develop on it right now, is probably tomorrow is a better session to talk about these things. But I would surely like to tell it now that we have a huge quantum of small industry. Our small industry constitutes around 95% of the total industry that we have in Pakistan. And the major issue is that these small industry, I don't know if I will be able to convert it into dollars, but in Pak rupees, it is about 10 million or 20 million. the capital cost, asking them to install some environment compliant system or device or a scrubber or anything like that again will be counterproductive, because the solutions we have available in market, initially we do not know the solution. I would like to admit our limitations. Secondly, the solution which are available in the market are again, to the extent, if we make a comparative analysis, if the industry's total capital cost is around 20 million, the solution is about 7 to 8 million. How can we expect a small industrialist to come up or install an environment compliant device system to its unit that is around half or 1/3 of the cost of the total capital cost of the industry? So we need to, that is why I was talking to you about that technological solutions that you pointed out in these 5 or 6 sectors that I would like to go through it, and some not only technical assistance, but real investment needs to go into these 3 sectors.
Thank you very much. I think there's still plenty we can discuss tomorrow as well, in particular on these particular points. So in the interest of time, so we're running slightly behind, then I'd just like to thank Dr. Ershad for the presentation and for all the city representatives. So we've heard from all of our cities now in terms of the action plans or roadmaps, so what they would all like to do and what the plans are, the next steps. What I'm very pleased to be able to have now coming up is actually to hear from a city which has actually taken planning through to implementation. So actually, how do we put this into practice? And so I'm delighted to welcome Vincent Benaro, Assistant Head from the Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability Department from Quezon City.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to thank ADB, Ricardo Energy and Environment, Cleaner Asia, Air Quality Consultants, and the other partners and organizers of this event for giving us this opportunity to share Quezon City's cleaner initiatives. It is always our pleasure to present the plans and the visions of the city. Just a brief background, Quezon City is located in the northeast portion of Metro Manila. So we are actually the biggest city in terms of land area and population, among the 17 cities and 1 municipality in Metro Manila. We have more than 3 million people and more than 65,000 registered business establishments. The city's economy is dominated by small to medium scale business establishments engaged in the distribution of finished products and the provision of basic services. With rapid urban development, it is our goal to build a livable, green, sustainable, and climate resilient city to enhance the people's right to a balanced ecology and provide a space that is conducive to healthy city living and attracts not only the local residents, but also visitors from other city. Next slide, please. To achieve what we envision, air quality management is integral in the city's development plans. Objective 4, under the Environment and Natural Resources Management of the city's Comprehensive Development Plan for 2021 to 2025, aims to promote sustainable urban development without compromising the future environmental condition. And Strategy 2, under this objective, intends to enhance the quality of the city's air to the levels meeting the required standards. The city's Enhanced Local Climate Change Action Plan 2021 to 2050 also contains strategies and priority actions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution while also increasing climate resilience. Enhanced LCCAP 2021 to 2050 encapsulates the city's unyielding commitment to ambitious climate action that deliver mitigation, adaptation, and equitable benefits to all its citizens. So on the screen, you can see the various strategies for mitigation and adaptation. For mitigation, this includes striving towards a circular economy, promoting organic paper and plastic, prioritizing organic paper and plastic waste. We have the green, energy efficient, and resilient buildings and establishments through the Green Building Code. Secure clean and affordable renewable energy access, solarizing government-owned buildings. mainstreaming energy efficiency and conservation in government-owned facilities. We have the active transport through walking and cycling, clean and efficient local bus transit system, and government-owned vehicles towards improved air quality. Equally important is our adaptation strategies, which include promotion of urban farming and localized food production, increased water security through robust demand-side management, promotion of nature-based solutions to flood mitigation measures, promotion of nature-based solutions to reduce heat and drought pressures through the Green Corridor Network and Urban Biodiversity Plan, build safe and resilient housing and public infrastructure for the most vulnerable, and mixed-use zones for improved accessibility of services to communities. Aside from these 12 strategies, the enhanced LCCAP is also equipped with 24 priority actions that contribute to the city's carbon-free growth, resilience against natural and man-made disasters, and social and development equity. Just to show the summary, the Quezon City's enhanced LCCAP is grounded by a far-reaching aspiration for carbon neutrality, climate resilience, and inclusivity, aligning with the city's vision of a quality community. So we have a target of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 30% in 2030. Meanwhile, our adaptation goal is we would like to build on and strengthen the resilience of natural ecosystems and communities against risks and threats from the changing climate, while also maximizing mitigation opportunities. Our enhanced LCCAP has also been harmonized with the standards and requirements of the national government through its National Climate Change Action Plan. Next slide, please. Priority Action 24 under Strategy 12 of our enhanced LCCAP emphasizes the need for air quality monitoring to enable the city to meet its target on air quality. Next slide, please. For the past 3 years, the city has set a clear message of its firm commitment to a cleaner and greener city through declarations and campaigns signed by our Honorable Mayor, Joy Belmonte. One of the commitment announced in the global community is the C40 Clean Air Cities Declaration, which was signed in 2019. Through this, the city committed that within 5 years, the city will be able to establish an air quality monitoring network for the development of targeted and effective policies and programs, develop a monitoring information system to allow real-time sharing of air quality data with the public, and number 3, develop an air quality management plan. Along with this commitment is our signing of the Breathe Life campaign, wherein the city is tasked to set ambitious reduction targets for air pollutants to meet World Health Organization guidelines. These commitments basically gave the city the momentum to campaign and deliver our goals towards cleaner air. This has also allowed us to secure the necessary funding, both locally and internationally, to support the implementation of our plans. Next slide, please. To strengthen our capacity in air quality management, we applied for and were chosen as the beneficiary of the C40 Air Quality Technical Assistance Program. So under this program, Quezon City worked alongside C40 and Cleaner Asia for the Quezon City Air Quality Monitoring Network and Management Plan Development Project and the Quezon City Baseline Air Quality Study Project. So these two project components assess the city's air quality monitoring capacity, and the roadmap of the city's air quality management plan was also drafted. The said technical assistance also facilitated the establishment and operationalization of the city's air quality monitoring network, while also enhancing the technical capacities of city personnel through a series of webinars and workshops. Next slide, please. Just like the other cities I heard a while ago, one of the challenges here is about the pandemic. So despite the challenges brought by the pandemic, wherein our capacity building workshops were held virtually, which has been very, very difficult given several limitations. The C40 and Cleaner Asia officially turned over 8 low-cost air quality sensors and the air quality management plan roadmap to the city government in 2021. To strategically locate the sensors, Quezon City conducted a vulnerability mapping exercise to identify vulnerable communities that were far from existing pollution monitors. Using a population-oriented approach, the city was able to plot strategic areas where air quality monitoring is most needed. The prioritization of sites were also based on areas with known major emission sources and those that are densely populated. The feasibility and accessibility of the sampling sites were also a major decision point. The 8 air quality sensors donated by C40 cities provide an estimate of the baseline air pollution characteristics of the city. The sensors can measure particulate matter and I think NO2. And we also have one instrument that can measure ozone along with an automated weather station. These sensors were co-located with an air quality reference instrument to ensure that the data acquired are aligned with existing standards. This year, using city government funds, we were also able to procure and deploy 12 additional air quality sensors and one reference station capable of measuring not only particulate matter, but also other parameters such as nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Similarly, the additional sensors were co-located with reference instruments in Namria in Taguig and Mehan Garden in Manila through the assistance of the national government, the Department of Environment, Natural Resources, Environmental Management Bureau, and Cleaner Asia. So we have also deployed 5 additional automated weather stations to complement the AQ sensors, and this can measure meteorological data such as temperature, wind speed, wind direction, relative humidity, pressure, and rainfall. Next slide, please. So this is just a sample, a screen capture of our Clarity dashboard, wherein measurements of the installed sensors within the city can be downloaded, compiled, and reviewed. With this, we can monitor the status of our equipment and our air quality. The latest average daily PM 2.5 data from the sensors shows that all location or sites are within the national guideline values. However, our data will further improve once we already have a permanent co-location station, which we are currently installing, as mentioned a while ago. So these averages can change as more data becomes available. And just for the information of everyone, the average daily PM 2.5 range from the sensors is from 15.1 to 27.8, the highest. Overall, the data presented show the different areas of different levels of air quality at different times, and it is important for us to monitor what is happening so we can identify trouble spots and prepare necessary actions, which include actual site inspection and assessment. Next slide, please. This is the roadmap developed for the city's air quality management plan. The objective of the roadmap is to outline the steps that Quezon City will take in formulating the plan based on its current air quality management capacity and also considering the institutional, technical, and management considerations of such an activity. Air quality monitoring, as we all know, is an important part of the process, providing the baseline data for the city and serving as basis for interim air quality targets leading to 2030. Monitoring will also be the means for demonstrating the impacts of air quality solutions to air quality levels when these are implemented. Next slide. As mentioned a while ago, the conduct of capacity building workshops for Quezon City personnel on air quality monitoring and management was an integral component of the technical assistance program. So these workshops were attended by the Quezon City Government Air Quality Technical Working Group, which was created to mainstream air quality monitoring and management among city departments. Other activities include co-location experiment for the sensors, site survey and installation of the equipment, monthly progress updates, continuous monitoring and analysis of air quality data. Now, actually, we're already underway in developing the city's air quality management plan in collaboration again with Cleaner Asia. Next slide, please. For the formulation of the Quezon City Air Quality Management Plan, the city and Cleaner Asia will be adopting a transdisciplinary stakeholder-centered approach with the active participation of the city's technical working group members, the citizens, and relevant stakeholders. So we have 4 work packages with corresponding set of activities to achieve the project objectives while delivering quality outputs in a timely manner. The identified scope of work also provides synergistic approach, ensuring an efficient use of resources and time, as well as maximize the involvement and capacity of everyone involved during the development, implementation, and monitoring of the plan. Work package 1 includes the expansion of the city's air quality monitoring network. Next year, we will be procuring additional 10 low-cost air quality sensors that will bring our total sensors to 30. This is to further increase our coverage. Work Package 2 will focus on the development of an air quality communication plan to serve as a strategic guide for all communication activities, particularly the awareness raising and information dissemination on the city's air quality status and other concerns. Work Package 3 is a development of an emissions inventory to identify the city's sources of pollution and the corresponding interventions. Lastly, Work Package 4 brings together all the outputs from the other work packages to produce the actual plan. Next slide, please. The activities for Work Package 4 include the development of a comprehensive set of measures for improving air quality, building on the goals, objectives, and priority actions identified in the Enhanced Local Climate Change Action Plan, Comprehensive Development Plan, and other sectoral plans to ensure alignment. An air quality financing plan will also be developed to establish financing needs and identify various sources, including the public and private sectors and international organizations. As always, capacity building activities will be conducted during the whole duration of plan development. These sessions are designed to strengthen the technical working group's capacity on different air quality management areas to ensure proper implementation and operationalization. Our target is by July next year. Our air quality management plan is already completed in time for budget preparation so that we can propose this for the implementation of programs, projects, and activities. Slide, please. We understand that air quality management is very challenging, especially for a big city such as ours. But we see these as opportunities to advance our climate and air quality goals. Sufficient funding is needed so as not to impede our progress on cleaner initiatives. For example, a comprehensive and reliable air quality network for Quezon City requires a good mix of air quality sensors and reference level equipment. So cost of maintenance and also subscription for the dashboard, as well as continuing capacity building for technical personnel, especially on data analysis and interpretation, is needed given the complexity of air quality monitoring and management. Program projects and activities must also be budgeted annually, which include both hard and soft interventions. Clear sources of funding needs to be identified to sustain our efforts. For Quezon City, we have identified possible sources of funding, which includes city government funds, national government funding, public-private partnerships, technical assistance, of course, from the donors also, and payments for environmental services, among others. But in order to properly access these funding sources, appropriate studies as well as technical and financial analysis must be prepared. This is to ensure that funds and resources are utilized effectively and efficiently. Limited technical capacity of personnel to interpret air quality data and identify appropriate and cost-effective technologies and equipment are also considered challenges that would need to be addressed. So that's why continuous capacity development and knowledge enhancements is necessary to cope with current situations and available information. Strong collaboration with local international networks and stakeholders will also provide the needed resources and capacity development opportunities and knowledge sharing. While we recognize our limitations in terms of our technical and financial capacity, we are able to slowly progress on our work program through the support and guidance of our local international partners. We also recognize that we have a long way to go to consistently meet the air quality guideline values, especially the standards set by the World Health Organization. That is why in the next 3 years, aside from completing the work packages and the air quality management plan for the city, we plan to continuously undertake monitoring studies while increasing stakeholder engagement and networking with potential partners. We also intend to research more on the appropriate and cost-efficient technologies and tools that would best fit the technical instrumentation needs of the city while ensuring the resources are maximized to complement the existing system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vincent. I think really interesting. So we have time for 1 or 2 questions if there's any points that people would like to pick up.
Thank you very much for this very good effort and presentation provided for Quezon City. I'm very curious to learn if your monitoring is made publicly available. So if your real-time data can also be accessed by the public. In fact, I have 4 questions. I only have time for 1 or 2. So the second question is, you did not elaborate a lot on what kind of measures you're thinking about for your actual management plan looking forward. And then how much are you trying, will you try to integrate like clean air and climate resilience and low carbon development planning with each other? And is it organized in the same agency by the same people, or is that separate? That's all. So
Thank
3.
you. So Vincent, did you want to?
Yeah,
pick up on this?
for question number 1, not yet. We haven't publicly released the data yet, because we're planning to have more data before we can release it. Actually, we've been in coordination with Cleaner Asia, and I guess the right timing is after January, so that we can also capture the pollutants during New Year's Eve. And aside from that, we have a national NCR Airshed Governing Board. I think data sharing is being discussed there. So before we can share our data publicly. So of course we have to consult with the national government. So I think that's the one that we are going to discuss. We have a session for 2 days, tomorrow and on Wednesday. So that's the one subject area that we must discuss, the data sharing of the available information. For number 2, I think Inner Asia can help us.
So just to also add to that, another important aspect that the city is doing is developing a comprehensive air quality communication plan. So that's what we're also working on before we communicate to the public. For the measures, because the timeline for the project is actually until September next year. That's why the measures are still being discussed with the rest of the departments. So we want it to be, the city wants it to be very much aligned with the goals of each department of the city. So that's.
Thank you. And I think that the first point about data availability is always quite interesting because, you know, there's always a sort of an urge to try and make sure that you make as much of it available as possible for transparency and public awareness. But I think Vincent also makes a good point about having the complete data to be able to share in the right way, because obviously there's always a risk of misinterpretation of data that's put out there, or accusations of manipulation we've seen in other countries. So it's always a fine line, I think, in terms of what's made available. But it sounds like the plans are there to take forward. So any further questions? Glinda is pointing at a computer. Has the city considered also monitoring some point sources of major air pollutants?
Well, actually, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources also has programs in monitoring point sources. I think they are issuing environmental permits for point sources. So they regularly monitor the status of air emissions of these establishments. And also the city government complements that, since we are also conducting inspections, especially for high-risk establishments, to monitor if they are submitting the required requirements, documents to the national government, and also checking if they are passing the emissions.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Yeah, I mean, typically they're sort of monitored in different ways. We're often talking here about stack emission monitoring or monitoring around the site, which will often fall within environmental permitting. Okay, any further questions? Olga?
Yes, since we are speaking about monitoring stations, so I just have some consultation with our colleagues in Mongolia, and I know that for each city we have distributed portable monitoring stations, and it's basically the expiry period is approaching. And then if I think most of the cities would like to have some kind of continuation or some way or other to have, you know, to want to continue the monitoring. And I think there was a need for cost and finance. I don't know if for the next phase, Clean Blue Sky, if it's possible, you know, I think it's just request or basically observation, what I hear. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Bolgan. So I guess initially we're referring to the monitoring equipment that was procured during the TA and that's been put into the, I think it's 6 out of the 7 cities. And obviously that is all being handed over to the cities themselves. And as part, whilst the TA will expire and we stop working on that contract, it's still available for the cities then to use going forward. And I think it's pretty much confirmed it's been negotiated with the suppliers of the equipment that the data access will be made available indefinitely as well. So that's something that's just being wrapped up now. But I think then the other point is obviously going forward, many cities have a need to expand on their monitoring capabilities, whether that's through a combination of low-cost sensors, but also more expensive reference sensors as well. And I think that is very much part of some of the considerations in the Asia Clean Blue Sky program going forward, is where there's a need for capacity building, for improving the data available, that can also be part of the considerations. So just before we break for coffee, I'd just like to invite my colleague Joe Green, Associate Director at Ricardo, to just give you a quick briefing about the plans for after the coffee break, and then we'll release you for refreshments.
Okay, thank you, Ben. So thank you everyone for sitting and listening so patiently today. After the coffee break, we're going to give you all an opportunity to actually have some discussions between the cities. We're going to have 3 breakout groups, and there's going to be a list put up on the screen. So we're going to mix all the cities up, and we would like you to be able to share and discuss some of your interventions, challenges amongst these different topics that we've got up on the screen. So we're going to have 3 groups. The first group is going to be discussing enabling policy frameworks for mainstreaming clean air actions in city development, and that's going to be facilitated by Ben. Group 2 will be governance mechanisms that facilitate management and implementation of clean air programs, and that will be facilitated by Glinda. And Group 3 will discuss data management frameworks that enable effective and efficient clean air solutions, and that will be facilitated by Tom. So during the coffee break, when you're all outside, the tables are going to be reassigned so that we have 3 groups available. So if you could join your group, please, as per the screen, and look out for Ben, Tom, or Glinda to help you locate which group you need to go to. The facilitators will give a brief introduction to what's going to be discussed. And then we would like the city representatives to actually then share their experiences, and so that you can have a really productive discussion. We're going to probably shorten this session a little bit by about 15 minutes because we are aware that we're running over time a little bit. So there'll be about half an hour for discussion. And then each group would please then appoint a rapporteur to report back to the main plenary for about 15 minutes for each of the 3 groups. And just for those of you that are joining online, it's not possible to facilitate you to join these breakout groups, I'm afraid. But if you joined back in probably at around 4:30, then you'll be able to hear the rapporteurs reporting back to the plenary. So yeah, so they were going to have a 15-minute coffee break still to allow time to have all the tables reassigned. And just one question for Glinda or Dang: should people move their stuff from the tables that they have on at the moment? Yes, if you could maybe collect your things together so that you don't lose them when tables get moved around, and come back in 15 minutes, and then we'll regroup for the discussion. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's
More of me. Here in October. There's some similar faces, but lots of changes in the team. Well, that as well, but 3 years in particular. So look, just I mean, to round off today, I guess we wanted a bit of a discussion. We're interested in really just understanding a bit more about some of the policy frameworks that you have in your cities, or provinces, or national levels, where there's an opportunity for main presentation we just saw from Quezon City about, say, the links to the really where there's opportunities for mainstreaming it, the activities or target. I guess I'm also interested. So really just a chance to go around and hear a bit from each of you as to what, where that could potentially fit, whether that's wider action. So if there's anyone that would like so it's always challenging to get thinking, but
it requires it needs to discuss many things, especially to minimize the emissions. This is need-based or other policies. It is need-based analysis. Different countries, different types of overall throughout the world, we found some common pollutions, air pollutions, especially from the transportation issues. We know the sources, but we need case produce good policies. We should invest in where we do and what we do. One can see we can invest implement our policies in finance. What we discuss. First, logical support for the pollution. We can provide technology, then we need we should do the procedure. This assessment. If we can put in all of these things, raise the expectation.
There are already where you could potentially build that in with the
with our national segregated sectors, especially the so here we would to penalize sector focus. Yes, sector based. We did need based assessment. And we segregated the sectors. The law. Policies. Now we are implementing a step. We are planting. We are planting lots of under the climate action plan, global warming, under the umbrella SDGs. Say what I told in the morning. You will find less polluted Bangladesh. No, you go we are not the worst fields of the animal. With the declare implement our actions by directed committees. Any internet, but they did not keep their our governance. You know it better. Government where's the support most polluted?
Well, we took no, in terms of
because and it is and our national they are preparing now with their own industries are ready. Yeah. On one side, so national yeah. The similarity with the national. Pressurizing them for installation to the side unit. So now they are demanding. Now the issue of government coming here. But the committee They don't have any roads to ride the cycle. This is easy to say. For that, there is a rolling wheel to the developing countries, they need very good point. Something we try. Yeah, we should do this. I can prepare a very. But that doesn't mean anything, you know, if we haven't spoken to finance it, you implement it, I support it. Very frequently we say, don't rebar. There is not a airport. Decent available we cannot mechanism in Lahore will be like this. Only one source for the not only in Lahore, especially rural people. So we are in natural gas direction. They know they don't have LPG. And how will they go? We can get say no to something. Sorry, where's my hand?
Anyway, I just like first. Yes, the subject. So it pertains to the policy framework. Those are the policies. Speaks mainly of those policies would not in the Philippines, you already have national laws stated earlier. Yes, by Bangladesh, that indeed there are. This is implemented by the Philippines with particular power, meaning some of the national government are now devolved to the local government. Just those that are being implemented. Governments that right now some are parts of only for industry. Industry is not yet devolved. However, in that particular instance, national law state the environment shared responsibility of shared with the responsibility. Clean air action, clean air management is one. If we talk about clean air action units, primarily implemented by the national government through the DNR, through coordination of the DNR with the local government units. So right now, in our case, in the agreement that localized, meaning we have a particular ordinance as stated during my presentation. So that in which we are also here. So in this case, if in this case, the programs are now being implemented locally. We localize regulations that's being implement our regulation. We implement their bodies in the local government unit, we already have regulations in place. Through the persons violating regulation, prohibitions, then the local government this person against them in court. So we force national laws in the local level with different projects related. Program. We are very thankful that this particular came into reality because it helped us, which is after environmental programs. It should finance policy already has given support so that we finish our how to implement those particular stated earlier. We really need right now is financial resources. On how to look for appropriations funding so that infrastructure support of our environmental programs, air quality inception of the plan, implementation of the plan, and make it feel that they fully support ever these programs, projects that are implemented. So I agree, we have the policy rules from yes, yes. The community fully grasp La Trinidad ensures that all sectors will take it included in the discussion. Yes, it is. Actually, our plans is actually global goals. I believe that base actually contrary with all the other plans. So the only difference here is that we would do it based on human resource. Where next? Where next? Yeah, of course. Thank you. This is only for this, for example, most every source of the engines, one damage, one house, one million.
We offered them. And government. Your duty to polluter is responsible. So they agree. So God so they but so it was out of 34. Really good to hear that Pakistan provincial case of rules, regulation, policies that is decided by the national government. Because in case of environmental rules, policies, and acts, these are formulated by the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and you can decide on. I have to abide by them. So So in case of local government institution in Bangladesh, like Purosabha, these are more of a service providing authority. Those who provide service to the local people, local community. So in Bangladesh, the plans are prepared by the ministry are being implemented by the department. Because under the station, they can force get to implement those policies, and they can overlook whether these policies are being implemented correctly or Department of Director of Faridpur, he can take actions against illegal making with the support of police district administration. Municipality has nothing to do with. No, municipality has no brick kiln owners, because the brick kiln got the license from the district commissioner, magistrates, and they are the Department of Environment check regularly whether they are following the rules or not. If not, they can in terms of finance, or they can that is terms of area, but population, right? No, it's work like that. The central government always sit in the capital, but they have their administrative branch all over. Yes, like no, not like branch. There is a ministry called Ministry of Public Administration. They have their representative, which is Deputy Commissioner. He is responsible for the administrative act. Like Faridpur is a district, and Faridpur city is a part of it. So he will be responsible for the whole administrative capacity, policies, also responsible for coordinating with the rest of the departments, like Department of Health Department. Whether it is effective or not. Just always report to government, like he report to public administration department ministry, and then they will that thing passes along to the even to the prime minister. Very much, very good question. Like in if you visit the function, carry issues. 14 hours a day. So he has to work hard. They are not so responsible for other districts like Rajbari. So they have a lot to do, but with limited people and resource. And to ask effective. So it is actually difficult because
we have about 5 minutes or so left.
Well,
No, I'd written down from earlier about
that's a big
program
but implementing the cleaner action.
and how things sort of
Municipality for all construction work.
think
They
it
are the
was,
operating
well, I
approvals
thought
of
it was broader,
all
but maybe that's
construction activity in the city. Here is they are responsible for air pollution. Has coordination capacity, he can. So what I need is well coordination that can be very much. Depends to the district. The first call is from the central government is to the commission, not the mayor. The government will ask. Well,
Hi everyone, we just got 2 more minutes, please. If you could think about wrapping up and appointing a rapporteur to report
for example, to collect the data for the entire city for like collect the data. So, you know, it has a lot of knowledge that's required to, but data has to be managed. Data has to be analyzed, because analyzed data will give the some of the conclusions. You can draw some of the conclusions and inferences out of it. There's a time you don't conclude anything out of data, or you don't draw any inferences out of data. That data is useless. Secondly, out of those conclusions, you make some of the recommendations. That is basically your action plan. First of all, you make the master plan. Master plan is a macro level. Then you, out of that master plan, make the micro plan. Micro plans are basically the action plans. Action plans are nothing but these are the actions to be taken to mitigate, reduce, or you know, or to improve the quality of the air. Then once you make the action plans and you implement it, maybe it takes 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years to implement that. Then after the implementation, again you have to collect the data, because once again you will be collecting the data and then comparing it with the other data which you have initially collected before the implementation of the action plans. Then after comparison, then you will come to know that either you are improving or we are improving something, or it is just you know, action plans, or we have to review our action plans. If we are not achieving anything, or we are achieving it very slowly, then we have to, you know, do something extra. We have to you know, modify or review our action plan so that we can. It is a continuous process. Like in most of the industry, we see that it is a continuous improvement. Likewise, it's a continuous process where we have to improve our plans, improve our action plans, so that we can mitigate or reduce any pollution there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So over to group 2 now, please.
Hello. We had a very engaging discussion, and so we're tackling the issue of governance mechanisms that facilitate management and implementation of clean air programs. So first is from the experience of Pakistan. First is the necessity of transforming the role of the regulator, the role of government. In order for clean air programs to succeed, government can no longer just be a regulator penalizing industry for non-compliance. In Punjab, the role of the government now is both regulator, but also facilitating the financial assistance to the industries that need to incorporate emission control technologies. And so they have a 2 billion rupees fund that they have created so that industries, polluting industries like from the steel industry and those that have boilers can access the fund via soft loans in order to install the equipment. In addition, government also provides technical guidance. So there is a committee that has been created, which is multi-sectoral, with industry associations as members and also academia and government. Actually, they will come up with recommendations on the technology solutions that for each sector, you know, okay, for steel industry, for this industry, what are the effective emission controls that can be installed. So also the example from Sialkot, where government actually in the beginning penalized or threatened to file suits against the 300 tanneries, and then reached out to the industry, to the tanneries, to actually find a solution. So the solution was that they should move out of the city center and into an industrial complex. And that what government did was to arrange for government to pay 75% of the cost of the land, which is like an advance for which would be paid in soft, which is actually a soft loan to industry. So this need for really working together between government and industry. Another, what was clear also in the Philippine and in the Bangladesh experience is the need for government to reach out to other stakeholders to make them part of a steering group or steering committee. The reason being that the Environment Department cannot implement the action plan on their own. The other departments like transport, energy, industry need to come on board to actually make this work. And in the case of Bangladesh, they're in a fortunate situation that the district administrator or the deputy, there are key people already in place with that role of coordinating, but they are stretched. So they need support in terms of capacity, human resources, and personnel. In the case of the Philippines, there is they follow the Airshed Governing Board, where not just one city manages their own airshed. The airshed is comprised of 6 local government units, and they have formed a governing board, and they have an action plan, and each city for Mongolia, it's actually also the same. The need for coordination at the national level. There's the expectation that the Ministry of Environment is the one that will fix air pollution in Mongolia. But what is needed are sectoral plans, and better coordination among the agencies, including the Ministry of Environment. And the local government also plays a very important role, because there needs to be this integration of action from national, local government, but even community level, especially for Mongolia, where, for example, the issues of air pollution are in the GERS, so you need to work at community level. So thank you. Anything else? Yes. The local government also needs capacity, because they have their own local environment codes, which they need to implement, but also, are lacking resources, and there's need for training, technical training.
One more thing, Mr. Saiful Islam from Department of Environment, Faridpur, has added that apart from the rules, regulation, also incentive is required for the people who are actually involved in this kind of pollution production, so that they can refrain from polluting, and they can less pollute the environment.
Okay, thank you, Group 2, thank you, Binder and 2 here. So finally, Group 1, Dang.
Hello, so good afternoon. I'm Dang from Group 1, and I'd just like to emphasize some of the points which our group discussed for the past 40 minutes. So I think several of these points were already pointed out by the previous rapporteurs, but we would just like to highlight that we recognize that policy frameworks, in terms of policy frameworks, these are already existing, And this can be in the form of a top-down, meaning from the national level being devolved to the local level, or bottom-up, meaning the national level learning from what the cities or local governments are implementing or enforcing. And we've also learned that from the experience of the cities and governments represented, the approaches can be from a sectoral perspective or from an integrated or holistic perspective. And we thought that in the end, it really is how these policies are enforced or implemented that defines the success of air quality management. The second point is that indeed there's recognition already of the value of assessments, meaning we craft our programs and policies based on what's existing on the ground in terms of air pollution levels, emission sources, and also capacities of the governments to implement this. But with that, I think we all agree here that there are two issues that we need to really focus on, which is to increase or strengthen the capacity to implement and enforce these policies, and also augment existing financing capacities to implement. I think what we also identified is that apart from, after financing, after identifying sources of financing, it's important that we weigh the interventions that would be supported by that financing, meaning we take a look at cost-effective technological solutions or infrastructure, for example, that would give us really the maximum benefit of mitigating the sources of pollution. So I think the common areas for action here were solid waste management and also transport. And so this would be the sectors that we think that would need more focused, needs-based and cost-effective financing. And then I think lastly, we also agreed that when we craft or when we consider the implementation of policies and policy frameworks, it is important that we think of alternatives or incentives like Tuhid mentioned, that would still enable the marginalized, say, sectors of community to cope in the midst of the mitigation measures that we try to implement. And so we need to consider that, saying that, for example, you cannot burn coal, for example, for heating, that doesn't necessarily, we have to provide the necessary incentives and enable them to cope with the circumstances as well that would be a consequence of that mitigation measure. And then lastly, I think all of us already also agreed that in parallel with or to support these enabling policy frameworks, we really need to have robust communication and awareness raising programs to get the buy-in of stakeholders, which Glinda in Group 2 already also pointed out. So that's it for Group 1.
Thank you, Dang. Thank you to everyone. I think there's some really useful discussions there this afternoon, and it's great that we got a chance to actually have some cross-city discussions about these different topics. I think that was very useful. We are at time, so I'm just going to take a few more minutes before we wrap up, just to close off the day. So first of all, I'd just like to thank all the speakers that have contributed today. So Ching Fen this morning from ADB, as well as Karma, our project officer, and my colleagues from the TA to introduce the session this morning. And particularly thank you to all the city representatives who presented their caps. That was the core purpose of today's agenda. And so it's very interesting to hear you present your clean air action plans, highlight your priority actions, and hear of some of the challenges that you've been facing over the last couple of years in the development of those plans. And also to thank Vincent Vinaro for actually showing us some actions that Quesnel City has been taking to forward their air quality management and how they achieved to get some C40 funding to help them develop an air quality network of low-cost sensors. That was also a really interesting contribution to the day. So just a brief summary, I guess, of the day. We've heard how the CAPs have been developed since 2019. It's been a long, drawn-out process. So it's great to be here, that we've got everyone actually in person to sort of discuss what's been going on over the last 2 years and what the outcomes have been. We've seen actions spanning across all the different sectors contributing to pollutant emissions, but particularly transport has come out as one of the key issues for all of the cities. And we've seen a range of different actions looking to address those sources, such as e-jeepney pilots, alternative fueling infrastructures, and shifts of a modal shift to walking and cycling and public transport. So it's great to see the different actions that the cities are championing now. We also had this afternoon to sort of start looking at what's next. How do we get these clean air action plans actually implemented? So hearing some of the feedback from your discussions has been really useful, and there's obviously some challenges, but there's also some solutions that different cities have been implementing to try and forward that process of getting to achieve improved air quality. But I think the biggest question really on everyone's lips is money. Like, how do we finance these actions? And that's really a segue into tomorrow. So that's really going to be the core topic of tomorrow. You're going to have the opportunity to hear from a range of different funders, both from within and outside ADB, ask them questions. And in the afternoon, they'll have an opportunity to sit with your resident mission representative or other ADB individuals to discuss sort of one-on-one with them potential funding options, like how your actions may fit into their funding portfolio, and hopefully be able to take away some contacts to follow up after the meeting tomorrow. So that was really just a summary and wrap up, and also to thank you to everyone for coming. I know some of you have had some sort of really big issues with getting visas and government orders to attend. So thank you to everyone for actually making the effort and putting in that time to actually join us here in Manila. So just before we finish, just a couple of, just one or two notices. There is a cocktail reception following this event. I'm not sure where it is now because it's moved from the courtyard because it was raining, but I think Clean Air Asia colleagues will be leading you to the right location when we're done. And tomorrow morning, please do arrive sort of in a timely manner. We will be dispersing tomorrow morning the monies which is for your DSA, so your daily subsistence allowance, and also a travel allowance. And this will be given to each of you as cash, and then you will need to sign to show that you've actually received that money. So please do arrive and allow time for that process so that we can start on time. And if everyone could also just sign the sign-in sheet both today and tomorrow, that's also just an important process for us. And finally, we are going to ask for some feedback. So I'm not sure who from Clean Air Asia is that you.
So just before we end, may we request all our participants who are here with us today to just help us with the workshop evaluation. So this will help us improve in our future events, not just for this day, but also in all other kinds of events that we will be handling. So we have here a QR code which you can scan. So it's also posted there by the door. You can just scan it. If you won't be able to complete it today, we'll be sending the links for day 1 and day 2 via email tomorrow or at latest Wednesday morning. So I think that's it.
And I think Balkan, you were just going to explain where the cocktail reception.
So I think you may have noticed the courtyard in the center. There is a garden, yeah. So and then just opposite inside, we call it concourse. So anyone, you know, there will be stand. So we can just follow the crowd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we look forward to seeing you at the cocktail reception and bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.